What you are seeing is the front page of a Brazilian newspaper printed in 1975. The paper was called Notícias Populares. I refer to it as NP. According to the newspaper, something impossible had happened. A baby was born looking like, and I quote, the devil in the flesh. Notícias Populares was not just any newspaper. It belonged to the same media group as Folha de São Paulo. This news, published in May 11, 1975, is still talked about today, 50 years later. For 27 consecutive days, the story was on the front page. People started visiting the hospital, the newspaper began receiving calls, witnesses came forward. And at one point, a clinic even announced that for a small fee, you could visit the baby. Today, I will show you what the newspapers published, the real story behind the headlines, and why, for people in 1975, it was real. A baby is born with horns, a tail, and speaking. If that headline surprised you, just wait for the details. And I quote, in an unbelievably fantastic and mysterious delivery, filled with panic and chaos among nurses and doctors, a woman gave birth at São Bernardo do Campo Hospital to a strange creature of supernatural appearance, possessing all the characteristics of the devil in the flesh. To translate the text and avoid copyright issues, I will show recreated versions of the front pages, but they are all real. You can find the originals in the description below. On May 12, the newspaper reported that the baby had already grown horns. When the nurses checked the room, they found his pillow torn open. According to the newspaper, the horns had ripped through it. The baby then said to the nurses,
"This is not my place. This is not my mother. I'm leaving. I'm not part of this world. You are awful. You are missing accessories."
Yes, the word accessories was actually used. Moments later, he reportedly jumped from the third floor of the hospital and disappeared. From that point on, the devil was no longer in a hospital room. He was out there, in the streets. At first, the newspaper continued reporting the story day by day, but then the sightings began, and they multiplied. The baby was seen walking across rooftops. One report claimed the baby was seen on a major avenue in São Paulo. He flagged down a taxi, the driver stopped, and the baby asked to be taken to hell. Then the story took another strange turn. The newspaper claimed it had identified the baby's father. He was said to be a well-known man in another city. But according to the report, he was never seen without a hat. The reason? The newspaper suggested he was hiding his own horns. More witnesses came forward. Then a private clinic claimed to have captured the baby and invited people to come see it. But the chaos didn't stop there. The baby nearly died. He ran away to the northeast of Brazil. And eventually, even Zé do Caixão, Brazil's most famous horror filmmaker, traveled across the country to hunt him down. Not only did these articles nearly triple the newspaper sales, they also triggered real-world reactions. People called the hospital where the baby was supposedly born. They visited in person. They flooded the newspaper with phone calls. And more importantly, they began reporting their own sightings, which the newspaper then published as well. As fictional as the story was, the numbers were real. The fear was real. The commotion was real. And now you might be wondering, how did people believe this? To understand that, we need to remember something. Brazil in 1975 was not the Brazil we know today. The country was under a military dictatorship, a regime that had begun in 1964 and would only end in 1985. Information was controlled. Censorship was common. Newspapers operated under pressure. Political stories were often cut, silenced, or rewritten. And when certain topics became dangerous to print, others became safer. Sensationalism was not illegal. Monsters were not censored. And while real tensions existed beneath the surface of society, the front pages sometimes choose to print something else. Fear sells. In a country where certain truths could not be printed, perhaps printing a monster was easier. That does not mean that the baby devil was a government invention. All I'm saying is the media landscape was very different back then. Trust in printed words was higher. Questioning them was harder. And when a newspaper printed something as a fact, for many people, it simply was. Luckily, on 2008, we got the account of Edward de Souza, the journalist later considered the creator of Baby Devil or Devil Baby, to shed light on what really happened. In 1975, there was indeed a rumor circulating about a baby born with horns and a tail. Edward was assigned to investigate. He went to the hospital and spoke with doctors, nurses, staff. What he uncovered was very different from the rumors. He found something completely ordinary. A newborn had 2 small protrusions on the forehead and an unusual extension of the coccyx, minor medical conditions that could be corrected with a simple surgery. That is exactly what Edward wrote in his report. But the next day, everything changed. Printed on the front page, in a title large enough to be read from a distance, was something so absurd it made him fear for his career. Nasceu o diabo em São Paulo. Devil was born in São Paulo. The article was signed by Edward de Souza. His name was attached to a story he had never written. The narrative had been rewritten and published without his consent. And he was terrified. In his own words, I was terrified, fearing a lawsuit and being fired from the newspaper for just cause. I walked into the Folha building with my head down. To be honest, I was scared. I was even more so when I was told to immediately go with Lázaro to the office of Otávio Frias de Oliveira, the owner of the Folha Group. But what happened next was not what he expected. Instead of criticism, he received praise. The newspaper had broken sales records, nearly tripling its usual circulation. Fear had sold, and from that moment on, the saga grew. Each new headline amplified the last. Each new sighting fueled the next. And with every edition, the story became more profitable. The devil was never really born in São Paulo, but something else was. A lesson. In how easily fear can be manufactured, and how willingly we consume it. Especially when it appears in a print. Hey, if you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing to the channel. I genuinely love researching and writing those scripts, and there are many other strange stories I want to uncover next.